on the phone, you'll see the little note tag, and we will do our best to remember that you're there, Mark, and get you to weigh in. And Director Lisa Allen is not with us this evening. We're going to start this evening with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And this evening, our recognition, we're recognizing board member Wayne Clift, who is, this is his last board meeting with us. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mike.
So I'm not sure why, whenever a board member leaves, we come up here and talk about it instead of stay there, but that is our tradition. And so it is an honor to be able to have a minute to talk about Wayne's home. Egomaniac, loud, obnoxious, greedy, toxic, rude, hates robots. This must be the wrong speech, obviously. Those things do not apply to Wayne whatsoever. When I think about Wayne, the thing I think about most is that the word integrity comes to mind. And Wayne has been such an incredibly solid board member for us over the last almost 7 years now. And integrity is at the heart of everything that Wayne does. It really is the cornerstone of his being, and it's such a huge part of just his character. And it's a steady trait that never varies for him depending on the situation. It is just within him in a big way. And that trait of integrity has served the district and the community in an incredibly positive way. The thing that is impressive about Wayne is the manner in which he does his homework before he makes any decision. He is a guy that is always going to do his homework. He's a guy that's always going to gather information, and then he's going to make up his own mind based on what he believes is best for our students and best for the community with which he serves. And when he's doing his homework, he's going to look at it from a variety of different angles. Wayne is a guy that he had the privilege or misfortune or honor of serving as a board chair during some incredibly controversial times for our district. There were some issues that were just were very difficult for the district to go through, and was had a lot of passion around it in the community. And Wayne did an exceptional job during that time. Again, the word integrity comes to mind because he made sure that all viewpoints were honored and heard. And he made sure that we had a process that was in place that was going to allow for that to occur. And throughout those entire processes and throughout any issue that he has considered as a board member, the balanced analysis that he's provided is just incredibly impressive. Wayne is one of those people that is incredibly level-headed. He's calm and he's always polite. And with the exception of one robotics presentation, I've always seen him keep his emotions in check. He is a guy that recognizes his obligation to the community, and he takes that very seriously. For him to offer his skill set of humbleness and analytical, for him to offer that to the community and to the district has just been such a positive thing for us. One of the other traits that I think of when I think about Wayne is just his incredibly humble nature. I'd probably known Wayne for about 3 years before going over. I happened to be going to visit Eastwood Elementary one morning just to see the band program that exists, that happens before school. And I walk in, and Wayne is teaching half of the class. Now, I'd known Wayne for a long time, and I had no idea that he volunteered on every morning, and he would go and he would take the brass portion while someone else would take the woodwinds. And the fact that he would do that without wanting any notoriety was just incredibly impressive to me. I'm really excited that Wayne has chosen to get into education for the next phase of his career, the next phase of his life, because we need those people that have servants' hearts, and we need those people that act from a place of integrity all the time. Sometimes you hear I've oftentimes heard the phrase that nice guys finish last, and with Wayne, that's not the case. Wayne's an incredibly nice guy, and he's a guy that as he wraps up his board service, he's finishing his service in first. He's finishing it in first because he believes in students, and everything that he does illustrates that. Really excited to have Wayne move into his educational career, and I'm excited to have the opportunity to talk about him and to honor him for the work that he's done this evening. So Wayne, if you would come forward, we'd love to congratulate you and thank you for all of your efforts. And we have a tradition also in Hillsboro for outgoing board members to engrave a bell that has the years of service on it that they've been involved with the board, and to give them a fancy certificate. So we're doing that this evening. So, there it works. We want the rest of the board around Williams.
Actually.
Come on down.
Right
I'm gonna let you go. Right up front.
Yes, come
This is
on.
the one picture where the tall person gets to stand in front. With the whole gang? Yeah, thank you. This is my father, Stan Flint, my mother's Glenda. Wife Stephanie and 2 kids, two daughters and Jess. So.
2 of the 4.
Alright.
No.
What a good looking group. Okay, we'll do 2. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Can come out just a little bit more. There you go.
Yeah, it's like you're lighting it, don't you?
1, 2, 3. Wonderful, thank you.
Oh, pardon me. Excuse me.
Do you want to say a few words before you? I don't know if your family's staying for the entire meeting, but.
No.
We're not.
Miss Stephanie, I would like to open it though for other board members who have anything they'd like to say.
Would you start?
Yeah, go ahead, Jackie. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
I haven't been on the board with Wayne very long, but he is, to me, the voice of reason and very calming, for me at least. And I want to thank you for always putting kids first in everything that you do. And what Mike said about you never making a decision that's not well thought out research is absolutely correct. So you will be missed.
Wayne, you set the example for public service, just in the way you conduct yourself, the thoughtfulness and the commitment that is manifest. As I campaigned and ultimately was very fortunate to get a seat on this board, I really look forward to working with you and getting to know you better, and we've done that, and I'll treasure that. And I look forward to calling you at home occasionally, sorry, and saying, "Hey, we love it." Well, Godspeed, sir.
And I too, I think that what Mike said about your spirit of humbleness really comes through all the time, and you always think about this community and the students, and I'm very appreciative, especially the first time that I met you was at a coffee chat, and that came across all the time, and I wish you the very best.
Mr. Watson?
Wayne, just echo what everybody else says. I regret that I can't be there in person, and thank you so much for your service. On a personal note, as I was considering joining this wonderful group of people, I attended several board meetings to just get a sense of what it would be like, and I have to say that your steady hand at the wheel had a big influence in me thinking, yes, this is the kind of group that I would like to be part of. So thank you very much for your time, and Godspeed.
Thank you.
Mine's written, so I don't mess it up. Wayne and I started on this journey together. We both ran at the same time, and we used to sit in the audience before we were elected, sort of itching to have our voices heard, and neither one of us could sort of wait to get here. And it's hard to believe that that part of the chapter is closing tonight. I have thoroughly enjoyed working with you. I appreciate your thoughtfulness, your amazing ability to listen, and your interest in being a lifelong learner. No matter what, I have always known that I can trust you to be honest, open to new ideas, and just sincere in your response. You always are just so sincere, regardless of what the topic is and whether it's personal or whether it's business. You put kids in quality education first. You always think before you speak, and you always take the time to get your words right, whether you're speaking or whether you're writing them, and you're masterful with your words, and I've appreciated that. I've loved learning with you. I've loved eating ice cream with you, listening to you. Sometimes when we watch choirs sing and we're in the audience, he sings along. When we count apples together, when there's foundation events, he's always the last one on the dance floor. And most of all, watching you get teary-eyed when you have a heartfelt reaction to robotics and the things that you are passionate about. Hillsboro is a better district because of your service, and our board is a better board because you are on it. I am excited for you as you start this new chapter. I can't wait for you to share your passion for STEAM, and you really do believe in STEAM, all of it. Sharing that passion with students, and I hope that our community is fortunate enough for you to continue to serve in that capacity in our community. Thank you for your service.
I don't know what I want to say to that. I don't, no prepared remarks. Really, I wanted to thank my family. Service anywhere is inevitably time away, and responsibilities elsewhere take me away from family who I love, and I appreciate them very much for coming, for supporting me all these years. And it's been a wonderful time, life-changing opportunity to be on the board, and I look forward to many years of knowing and working with all of you. Thank you so much.
Okay, with that, we'll move into the regular business of the evening, and our feelings will be hurt, Cliff family, if you
This is an
start
excellent
through the
time.
exit door.
I usually invite people to make a quiet escape.
And board members, I would be looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda.
I second.
Any questions or comments? So it's been moved by Martin and seconded by Erica to approve the agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. We'll move into audience time, and just want to make sure audience members know if you would like to speak to the board tonight, there's a board agenda card at the back table that you can complete. And the one I have right now is Joe Everton. Joe, you want to go ahead? Yeah, if you have one, feel free to bring it up and hand it to Val Bachma here on the end table, our board secretary. And then while others in the audience are filling it out, Joe, why don't you go ahead and come on up? And I'm out of practice of this. Public participation in board meetings is governed by policy BDBH. Visitors who wish to speak before the board, either as individuals or as members of a group, must complete an intent to speak card and provide it to the board secretary. Comments concerning a published agenda item are limited to its designated place on the agenda unless otherwise authorized by the board chair. Comments about non-agenda items will be heard during audience time at the beginning of the regular session. Any person who is invited by the board chair to speak should state their name and is speaking for an organization, the name of the organization. A spokesperson should be designated to represent a group with a common purpose. An individual who has submitted an intent to speak card and has been invited to speak by the board chair will be allowed 3 minutes. A person speaking on behalf of a group will be allowed 5 minutes. The board requests that a public comment add information or perspective that has not already been mentioned previously. Speakers may offer objective criticism of district operations and programs, but in public sessions, the board will not hear comments regarding any individual district staff member. Commendations involving staff members should be sent to the superintendent, and channels for the board's consideration and disposition of legitimate complaints involving individuals include board policy KLKLV public complaints. If appropriate, the board chair will connect the visitor with an administrator to receive comments regarding personnel. Any hearing conducted before the board regarding personnel shall take place in executive session. The board thanks all our visitors for your presence, and we appreciate the input of community members. So we'll go first with Joe. We did ask Joe. Joe is speaking tonight on policy BVVH, but we're offering him an opportunity to speak now so he doesn't have to wait for our action items at the end of the evening.
Again, I'm Joe Everton. Thank you for hearing me now. I'm not going to be able to stay that long, so I appreciate that flexibility. Really, my main thing that I wanted to bring up was I wanted to thank the board for hearing and applying my comment. On the last board meeting, it confirmed my belief that we're really on the same page about how important public comment is. I really appreciate that. I have one small request to ask, and there's a sentence in there that reads, during a session, a board meeting that is open to the public, a portion of the agenda may be designated for public comment. My observation here is that by using the word may, it gives the board discretion on whether to have public comment in any board meeting. And I heard the reason for this in the work session, and again, this is why I almost hesitated to bring it up, because I know the spirit of what's going on here. It's just because special sessions don't have comment, right? Which is completely acceptable, and that's fine. The reason why I bring this up is I just request a small change just to show the board's commitment to hearing public comment in each regular session. So it could be word, just a one-liner to support that and commit future boards to that. And I hesitate to bring it up because I know the board values public comment, and I thank you again for listening to public comment each meeting. Thank you.
And next is Erica Probst.
I brought notes. Hi, I'm Erica. I am new to the school board here with a kindergartner, so that is my drive to become more involved. I wanted to talk as a new parent to a student in the school district as well as a nurse. And I wanted to touch base about the Century High School school-based health clinic. I also am a teacher at Beaverton High School, and Beaverton High School has a school-based health clinic. That clinic provides birth control. As a nurse, I find that it is a public service to provide birth control, and I know that this is something that the school board is discussing. A 2012 study showed that improved contraceptive use with teens made a 28% decline in teen pregnancy between 2007 and 2012. They also found that sexual activity had not declined. So that was purely because of access to contraceptives. The school-based health clinics are not promoting sexual activity. They're promoting healthier teenagers. They're promoting holistic health. Teen pregnancy in 2010 was shown to be a cost to U.S. taxpayers of $9.4 billion. And that is a huge responsibility for the U.S. taxpayers. So we look at the whole health of the teenagers, we look at the whole health of the community, and we are not looking at saying we should promote sexual activity for any teenager, but we're looking at providing access to care and providing a quality of care for all patients. So we're really looking at our district, where a lot of the clientele, a lot of the patients might be underserved, and this may be the only place where they have access. They may not have a primary care provider. They may not have a pediatrician. As a nurse who worked at St. Vincent's, I also saw the patients that were taken care of by a pediatrician and having babies themselves. And it is hard, it is difficult, and it was hard to see that and to know that they had a lot of fear and they may not have had the support that they needed, and they may not have had the information or the care provided to them to have prevented that in the first place. So I would like this to be something considered by the board to provide contraceptives at the Century-based school-based health clinic as a basically a community health standard to help promote the health of our teenagers and promote a healthier community.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move into reports and discussion. First reading of the 2017-18 Drug, Alcohol, Tobacco Prevention Plan. Street Casey.
Good evening. 2017-18 Drug, Alcohol, and Tobacco Prevention Plan is our annual review and readoption per policy. So I'm here to highlight a few things that we do as a district. Certainly this list is not comprehensive. Our schools, licensed and classified staff, counselors, care coordinators, there's a large group of folks that help guide our students through these difficult issues. What you have here is an outline of our district health curriculum based on Oregon Health Education Standards, and then just to highlight a few areas that are extremely important to our district, the work that our care teams and care coordinators do with all of our schools and buildings, our after-school programming with BLAST and our partnerships with all of our providers, specifically the City of Hillsboro, the involvement of our school resource officers, and traditionally our student safety survey is particularly of interest generally to the board. I can say that this is my 10th year in the district, and this is the first time I can recall that the results that our students shared through this survey are below all of the state numbers per category, but also significant declines from when we took it 2 years ago. If you recall, we alternate between the Oregon Healthy Teens Student Survey and the Oregon Wellness Survey, so we compare years that the last time we completed the like survey. So these results that are in front of you are from the 2015 versus the 2017 survey in tobacco use, alcohol, and some drug use. I think our staff and students should be commended on these results. We've made it a priority in our prevention plans to see the reduction of these, and these numbers show it. Now, these are self-reported numbers by students, but the survey does incorporate any kind of deficiencies in that. But I wanted to point that out, that this is the first time that I can specifically remember that in all categories, our reduction in use as reported is low across the board. Is there any questions that I could answer?
Jackie?
I think the survey goes to supporting the programs that we have in place, and I think that's wonderful. My only question is, do we have numbers of how many students have taken the survey in each of the years? It would just be for comparison's sake. It might be a little bit better, easier to understand.
It's done by grade levels, so but we do have in the report, in the full survey report, it tells us the data that numbers versus previous years.
How many actually participated in the survey?
Correct.
Okay, great.
Mark, do you have any questions?
No, I'm good. Just a question on numbers. Thanks for sharing.
Erica?
Yeah, I just had a question on the plan, the prevention plan.
Yep.
If there was under one of these programs, a way that we help students or family more holistically, there's one of these areas that tackles that, because a lot of times it's problems at home as well that can perpetuate a problem more.
Yeah, so our holistic approach really is through our care teams, site-based care teams, along with their care coordinators. You know, those are the groups that our principals and care coordinators manage, and they are that whole service approach for students in need, regardless really of the individual circumstance. So they do have data that they look at, oftentimes weekly or bi-weekly, particular students that they believe are at risk for a variety of reasons. They try to provide them services.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you, Casey. This is on first reading, so we will take action on it next month. And then Casey has our next report.
I'm next.
Safety report.
Double dose here tonight. Another report, this is the annual safety report. What I will say that while I'm very proud of the measures that our safety department completes and has in place, this is an ongoing living document as far as the responsibility of school safety in our district, along with everybody else. It really does take everybody. In this report, you see some highlights of the things that we have in place to address school safety. One of the newest things this year is our public safety office. As we discussed at the September board meeting, we have our own school district police department of one. And I believe that we're really starting to see a lot of dividends with that, just because of the service that we're able to offer, whether it be an issue going on in school, we have a direct person that can go out and assist or problem solve, along with our security patrol monitors that are really getting used to patrolling the district and being able to serve our schools. A couple just highlights with this report. I think if you get into not only our comprehensive online training and the accountability that we ask staff to do, but also building safety inspections where we have our insurance providers and our risk manager, along with their emergency preparedness manager, going out to buildings to review things and a system to get things fixed. Our district's site safety teams that alert facilities or something of need. Our Healthy and Safe Schools Plan, which talks about a lot of environmental health safety things that we are in the midst of and monitoring. I just think all of the items that we have from a program perspective really set us above many districts in our region and in the state, and it's something that we continually try to improve on. So if there's any questions that I can answer about the annual safety report, please let me know.
Jackie?
I have a question on the required policy reviews and acknowledgements. One of those included is district annual policy review. What is that? Is that all district policies, or is that additions, changes?
No, we have a certain number of policies, certainly not all of them. It may seem like it's all of them to a lot of staff, but what we do is we analyze basically on department and need and common things that come up that staff need to be aware of, that they need to acknowledge that they've reviewed policy. So I think it's usually we're about up to 100 pages, not necessarily policies, but it certainly isn't all of them.
Because that's a lot.
There's a few of them.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mark, any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have the front row. First reading of new high school courses, Travis.
We actually have the first two rows here reserved for our team. Normally with a course proposal, I'd be introducing a teacher and a member of the Citizens Curriculum Advisory Committee, but tonight, as you can see, we have a whole squad here. We're going to be sharing information regarding 7 new courses or pathways that we hope you'll approve after 30-day review. Tonight is just an overview and open up the conversation to some questions. But before we get started, I just wanted to do some acknowledgements and set some context for what you'll be hearing tonight. First of all, I want to thank the teachers from our high schools for all their work and leadership putting these course proposals together. I tease them and say that they already have a real job that they're doing, and they're already successful teachers in our system, but they have chosen to create new pathways and new courses to benefit our students. So I really appreciate all the time and leadership that's gone into that. Risk-taking in some cases. I also want to acknowledge Becky Kingston couldn't be here, but it's Becky who got us to a shared course catalog for our district. Districts our size don't normally have a catalog where you can see all the different programming and courses that are available to students, nor the organization to even talk about getting students around to different campuses for different courses. And that's been a huge stride forward for our district in the last 3 years. I also want to acknowledge Brooke Nova, who's really laid the foundation for career pathways conversation in our district. And if you're around in our schools, you might even see this poster around career learning areas in our kindergarten classes or in our elementary schools. So thanks to Brooke, who's here tonight. I brought a lot of show and tell items here. Kelly Purdy is also here tonight, and I want to acknowledge Kelly because of her support in creating, helping the teachers here tonight become credentialed to be CTE teachers if they weren't before, and helping them with the Perkins alignment of these programs of study that you'll see being proposed. I don't have time to get into the details of what all that means, but these proposals you hear tonight are going to draw more resources to our district and be connected to industry and higher ed partnerships through the work of our teachers and under the leadership of Kelly. I think our teachers would tell you that Kelly is incredibly knowledgeable and professional and also patient with us in all our quirks as we get our acts together. So thank you, Kelly. I also want to thank our high school admin teams and counselors. I saw Michelle here, Mr. Matsuo and Dale Spitzer for the vision that they have around career pathways and supporting innovation in the context of Measure 98 and the passage of the bond and within our strategic plan. I think there are an incredible number of players behind these 7 proposals that you'll hear tonight, and I want to set the context for that to be acknowledged, and we can get into the details of that later. I have a clicker. Okay. So tonight, the format is going to be that you'll hear from each one of the teachers who are proposing new courses or sequences for 90 seconds. They'll be telling you about themselves and the work experience and education that they have that brings them to this point in their careers to be able to offer this stuff. They'll be able to tell you about the course description, and they'll be able to tell you about objectives of the courses, what will students experience and be able to do. You'll also hear, following the vetting of these course proposals and pathway design stages at the school and district level, on November 6th and on December 4th, the CCAC heard presentations from teachers and staff regarding each one of these pathways, and Linda and Rebecca are here to talk about the presentations that they listened to, talk to you about the questions and the feedback that came from the CCAC, and each one of these courses are here because they were voted to be forwarded to the board for consideration for 30 days with hopefully being approved in January. And then we'll have a chance for Q&A at the end. I would ask that as we go through each little chunk tonight that we save our questions for the end so that we don't get derailed. And Val gave me about 10 minutes to do this, and I'm already taking 5 with the introduction. So I apologize, Val. Remember, please, that you have full access to the PowerPoints that were originally much more colorful for the Citizens Curriculum Committee and the entire packets of the course proposals in your materials. So with that, I would like to invite Mr. Pendergrass forward. Thanks for being the brave first volunteer to talk about bios.
Okay, I'm going to try that. All right, so my name is Brian Pendergrass. This is my 7th year teaching in the Hillsboro School District, 6 of those at Hill High. I started off, I've taught sort of every science possible, biology, chemistry, physics, and now transitioning to biotech. Before becoming a teacher, I spent 10 years working in industry as a molecular biologist, basically cutting and pasting DNA in various labs around the country and even in Germany. The Bioscience Technology program is centered at, it's really a dream come true for me. It's centered at taking our students past the sort of conceptual, basic knowledge that they learn in the typical science class and showing them how scientists in the 21st century actually apply those skills and those concepts to the real world. In the past year, since I was here last, we've formed partnerships with PCC Bioscience Technologies Department, Genentech, Oregon Health Sciences University, Oregon National Primary Research Center, and the Oregon Bioscience Association. We've already taken students on a couple field trips and had a couple guest speakers, and we're starting to show them sort of bioscience technologies in their own backyards. We've been to Genentech last week, and it was the first time they've ever had high school students there. And so we're hoping to grow that program tonight. The 2 classes that are being proposed, microbiology would be aimed at teaching juniors. It would be an alternative to the planned junior biology, teaching exactly the same standards, same next generation science standards, but through microbiology and a biotechnology lens. And then the advanced bioscience tech would have sort of 3 main focus areas. One would be on teaching more advanced lab techniques. The second would be on a research topic and an internship, their experiential learning opportunity for seniors. And the third would be on career preparedness, so resume building and interview skills, stuff like that. Thanks.
Because we do have a clicker right here, so I think we missed this slide. You guys have this in your packet. Okay. Those are the first. Right. So Ms. Shack. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Corey Shackelford. I teach at Hill High. I've been there 5 years, and I teach all the agricultural science classes. So Introduction to Hort, Hort 1, Hort 2, Natural Resources, Floral Design, Welding, Senior Seminar, and Introduction to Ag. So the course, or the pathway that I'm proposing for tonight is a veterinary science pathway. It'll add 4 new classes into the pathway. It'll actually create its own new pathway. So we'll have a veterinarian science pathway and a horticulture pathway. But veterinarian sciences is one of those classes that kids have requested and they really like. It's an increasing career over the last couple years. high wage, high demand. So the first class would be an introduction to veterinarian science. This would just be like the ins and outs of a vet tech program, what a veterinarian technician needs to do in order to complete their daily jobs, also with medical terminology. And then the next course they would take would be animal nutrition. This would be the basic feed stuff, what we feed our animals, how we feed them, if we overfeed them, what's gonna happen. And we're gonna focus on small animals and large animals. So livestock would be our large animals, and our small animals, cats and dogs, guinea pigs, hamsters, all those cute little furry guys. And then it would also have a little bit of prescription diets, how to, if they overeat, how to help them from not overeating anymore. And then the next course they would take would be Veterinarian Technology 1. And this would be a year-long class. This is where we'll talk about nursing, behavior, and restraints of small animals and large animals. Also basic management practices, how to care for them, and then animal products and byproducts, what we can use them for. And then the last and final class will be Veterinarian Technology 2. It'll also be a year-long class, and this is where we'll cover diseases, small animal diseases and large animal diseases, and how to prevent them, and then what happens when we get them. Also with clinical science, how we can start to see it, and then treatment and prevention of it. And then the last part of this class is where their capstone will be. So it'll be a 3-year pathway where they'll finish their senior project at the end of this course. Did I just click this look right? Oh my goodness, oh my goodness.
All right, gotcha.
Thank you. I'm not very good at technology. Thank you. And then last but not least, it is a high wage, high demand. It'll be very hands-on. Kids will be able to experience working with animals, small animals and large animals, as well as this will be potentially aligned with PCC's veterinarian program, which will add up to 18 college credits that students can get. It'll be 5 classes at PCC, transferring to 4 classes at the high school. Community involvement, working with the local veterinarians, as well as connection through FFA to help increase the program, and then also be able to compete in the veterinarian technology career development event. And then lastly, adding a brand new pathway to the CTE Perkins, making 2 pathways for Hillsboro. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lark from Liberty.
I'm Paul Lardy. I guess my work experience, I grew up as a kid in this area in agriculture, picking strawberries by my school closed, and then moved up to the cannery, which is a huge promotion at that time, and then spent a couple of years working in the lumber industry, and then attended University of Oregon. During Summers University of Oregon, I started a bricklayer apprenticeship. After college, I actually spent several years and finished a bricklayer apprenticeship, so I kind of I've done a couple different things. Lived and worked on a farm part-time for about 12 years. Again, graduated from the University of Oregon, attended their Institute for Marine Biology, as well as then finished my master's at Pacific University. This will be my 14th year teaching at Liberty High School. I've taught most of the sciences that are offered, and then this spring will be my 23rd year coaching in Hillsboro School District. So that's my background. The courses I'm proposing are Sustainable Agriculture 1. So students will learn essential gardening and farming methods that do not harm the soil, air, or water for future generations. Sustainable Ag 2, this will be the capstone course for the program of study. Students will complete their senior project and manage the Falcon Farm, which is our on-site farm at Liberty High School. And at completion of the program, students will be able to demonstrate their knowledge of the 3 main goals of sustainable agriculture, which is environmental health, economic profitability, and social and economic equity.
Thank you. Mr. Patterson from Glencoe High School.
Hello, I'm Todd Patterson from Glencoe. I apologize, I've lost my voice in the last couple of days. A little bit about me, I teach at Glencoe, as I said, I teach social studies and I've taught AVID. But I have about 20 years of construction experience in the home building field, from labor to trades to construction management. I worked last summer for a residential builder, and I noticed that there was an extreme labor shortage for both trades and managers at that level. So projects were delayed and projects we're over budget because of that. The courses I'm proposing are a basic construction and advanced construction, similar to what Sherwood High School and Forest Grove High School has, and I've met with those teachers to teach kids all about home building, trades, management, planning, real estate, reading plans, all of those skills. And also how to like properly and safely use tools. So both hand tools and power tools. I know it's kind of scary to think of a high school student with a skill saw, but we can do it, and we can do it safely. Our course objectives are to build a home as a school and as a district. That would be the capstone project, but also to use math and like academic language in like a real world setting where they have the application and it's in a real world work environment. They would be learning a lot from industry professionals, and I've built a lot of contacts around this area who have expressed a lot of interest in helping out and partnering with Oak Grove School District. I guess a goal is to give students a competitive edge when they leave high school to either start a job right away or to pursue like a construction management degree like the one offered at Oregon State University. Some other things is just to increase community involvement in our schools, to encourage girls to participate or to gain employment in this traditionally male-dominated field. My wife is a construction manager for a company right here in the area and is very successful, and she learned a lot of what she does in high school. And also there's a lot of internship opportunities, and I just think this would provide a connection for a lot of our students to our school, which they don't currently have right now. So that's it, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Crabtree from the...
My name is Kevin Crabtree. I've taught at Liberty High School for the past 14 years. This is my 14th year. I teach a handful of things currently: construction tech, AP environmental science, digital electronics, intro to environmental science. I have taught in the past, too many to name. Main idea here is that we bring kind of what I've observed in my years of teaching construction tech and make it more comprehensive, focused on design and sustainable design. With my background in environmental science and my background in working electronics and in construction fields, I want to make a more comprehensive pathway because I've noticed that the 1 year just isn't enough. You can only do so much with the survey course. So the idea is we would bring on Sustainable Design 1 after construction tech, and that would focus on prototyping and kind of rapid design stuff, not 3D printer type stuff, but actual prototyping and building. And then the concepts of sustainability that are embedded in a lot of other design besides just construction. And then Sustainable Design 2 would just expand upon those, and then we would work with Falcon Farm and support work that needs to be done out there, and then kind of hopefully turn that into an active living lab as we could demo solar, wind, all sorts of different things.
Thank you. I'm going to invite Terry Alexander and Chris Winnica to come up together. They go together. You'll understand this.
We do collaborate a lot. And so my name is Chris Winnica. I'm just excited to be here because I love the school district. It's wonderful. My wife grew up through Lad Acres, through all the schools through Hill High, and so it's kind of fun for me to come back and just be a part of this, even though I'm from Arizona. I teach computer science at Century High School. I've been teaching there for since 2006. Several levels of programming, several levels of web design. Terry Alexander and I both run after-school game design clubs, and so we've been plotting and planning this for a couple of years now, and so we finally decided that let's move forward. And we're modeling 3 levels of computer game design, and modeling it a lot after Sunset High School. Jason Galbraith, a wonderful computer science teacher, has been doing this for over 10 years now. And there are several other schools also offering this, Tiger Tualatin, McMinnville High School. And this would focus on creating computer games and using that high interest for the games and what a part it is of their lives, and showing them how they can actually develop their own. And so it would focus on creating these computer game designs using game engines such as Game Maker, and then moving them towards more advanced ones like Unity, possibly XNA and others. Students would learn to code, they would learn computational thinking. It begins in a drag and drop interface, so it's easy to sort of get into. And so through the courses, they would be able to develop and storyboard a video game idea, develop a design document, implement and complete 2D games, working on gameplay, character design, animation, working on different levels, user interface, game audio. They'd be learning algorithms, data structures, optimization for successful video games. They're large projects, so they would be incorporating a lot of different skills as they do it, and there's a high demand and a high interest in that. I don't know where the clicker went, so, okay, you can go, oh, great. So, obviously, one of the interests here is we want to take that, leverage that interest and help show them the high demand, high career opportunities. As you can see, such a large percentage of STEM is actually directly in computing, and that just continues to grow. So we want to take that, teach them computer science skills, software engineering skills, and basically we're wanting to basically help them learn some collaboration tools and other software practices as well.
Okay, and then another class in the computer science pathway called Computer Science Principles. And this would be actually the class that the kids would take in my pathway after game design, or an alternative path that they would come up through taking robotics, 2 semesters of robotics or 2 semesters of game design. This class is not actually brand new to the school district. There is a course out right now called AP, Computer Science Principles, that Chris teaches at Century High School. But this version will be offered for direct PCC credit. So it's a little bit of a merge between PCC's CS 160, Exploring Computer Science, and Computer Science Principles, the AP class. I want to make sure that my kids have everything in both programs. Some of you guys saw me last year. I was here proposing the first level of computer science, Introduction to Computer Science, which is the first level of college credit computer science class. As I was working on that, the colleges were adding a pre-computer science level, and this is that. This last year's course was CS 161. This is CS 160, and the purpose is to work on concepts, to work on just kind of the broader context of some of the things that people struggle with in computer science, to look at computer architecture, to look at algorithms, to look at data structures and big data and other things that will help them be successful in the intro to computer science class. In general, we need a lot more computer science majors or people that end up in technical fields to fill the jobs that we have in the US. And so this is a good way to provide a little bit more equity, a little bit more support. So it's not just our high-flying critical thinkers, with a strong computer background already.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to invite Linda and Rebecca. Linda Osuna is the new chair of the Citizens Curriculum Advisory Committee, and Rebecca Nelson is the co-chair, vice chair. And Rebecca actually in her first meeting had the opportunity to facilitate the meeting. So she'll tell you a little bit about the conversation that we had. One of the things that we look for with the CCAC is to ask provocative questions, to ask questions about students that each member represents, and to give us feedback on how to improve these course recommendations. So thank you very much.
It's a lot short people friendlier than I thought it was going to be. Yeah, thank you guys. My name is Rebecca Nelson, as introduced, the vice chair. And I, like Trev said, I have the ability to facilitate the November 6th meeting. And it was so exciting. It was just so exciting to hear these course proposals. As a former student of the Hillsboro School District, part of the things, where were these, when I was in it. But it's so exciting for students to have such a diverse opportunity. And that's really what these are, is providing more opportunities for the students. And so the courses that I was able to hear during the November 6th session included the Bioscience Technologies course from Mr. DeGrasse, the Veterinary Science from Ms. Shackelford, and Sustainable Agriculture from Mr. Larry. And for those, trying to be summarizing, you guys are my 90-second, goals for speaking, and it just doesn't work for me. But essentially, what we're concerned with in the committee is accessibility. And accessibility falls on a few different fronts, right? So accessibility within the schools. So for example, with bioscience technologies, that was going to be offered, at the one school, but will the other three have access for those? How can we give those students access? Because that's something that I think, like I said, is on the rise, and it would be fantastic for students of all areas of Hillsboro to have that opportunity. Accessibility also comes in just, I guess, the diversity of perspective. Our students learn in different ways. These courses are very heavy in math and science, and some of our students are maybe not quite up to where they would need to be starting. So how are we going to meet them halfway to make sure that they're also getting the maximum benefit of these courses? So those, I would say, along with, I guess, what courses they would be replacing and making sure that nobody's missing out on what's already available. This would be the main things that we took away from the meeting on November 6th.
Good evening, my name is Linda Osuna. I'm this year's chair. I've served on CCAC for the last 3 years. I want to applaud the teachers that came before us on December 4th. We've got a really very, very well-talented staff here at Hillsboro, and we did acknowledge them, and I appreciate your time for showing us these course proposals. I think you'll all be very impressed by them. One of the things that we did identify was the connection with not only providing life skills for these students. Not every student is on the 4-year university track, so a lot of these proposals did provide an opportunity for students that wanted to maybe go to work and go to school at the same time. So I really was impressed, not only with how the presentation went, but how well thought out they were. I also wanted to let you know that you're going to find that a lot of the skills that they're going to learn, the students are going to learn from these proposals, are practical life skills. I think the only one that we identified is probably the computer classes, the computer science and gaming program. But Miss Alexander told me that, or told us, I should say, that you have a middle school program going on. Is that correct?
Yes, we have a middle school summer camp, dual language summer camp, last 2 years called Si Se Puede.
Yes, Si Se Puede. So that identified for us as not only beyond high school, but they're reaching down into the middle school. So not only is it providing an opportunity for kids that normally may not be strong in math, but may pique their interest where they're learning and having fun at the same time, which is very important. And of course, the literacy component, which is something I'm very passionate about, was in all of their presentations. I'm sure you all will find them very, very well and will vote properly. Thank you.
Appreciate it. I think we had a little glimpse into the CCAC roundtable. We've got a really good group this year, so I'm happy to answer any questions at this time. Also, if you have questions in the interim during the 30-day review, please feel free to forward those to me, and then I can shoot them to our teachers and get some feedback.
Jackie?
Your course proposals were amazing. I actually read them all, and they were very thorough. So thank you for taking the time to do that. I just had a couple questions. On the computer game design, one of the student course evaluation bullets was if a student has access to a computer at home. And I just wanted to make sure that that won't be a limiter for some students to have access to the course or how they will be evaluated, because there are some students who don't have access to a computer.
And that's one of the concerns that's always there for all of our computer classes. And so I find that most of my classes, they're able to get the work done in the class, and the computer lab is open after school and open at various times. We have the access period they can come in. And my expectation is not that they will do it at home. Many of them can, and so they want to work on it, and that's okay.
Okay. And my last question was specifically computer science principles, but the dual credit with PCC, and maybe it's different, but my experience with dual credit is that there are additional fees associated with that, and maybe with PCC it's different. I think it might depend probably on which.
There are no fees associated with the dual credit with PCC.
Okay.
Martin?
Well, thank you. I'm just completely blown away. This is just so exciting. I almost can't sit here. It's just, I want to sign up for all these classes. Yeah, I think I'm channeling. I look out at everybody in this room, and it's like, whoa, this is just too awesome. So thank you. Y'all are courageous for coming in here and taking the mic, but for what you're doing, you're stepping out. You're being change agents. And that is courage. You're keeping us as a district relevant to the needs of a very dynamic student population, and I just completely salute you. It's courage. It's so wonderful as a district to have members of our own team, leaning forward and pushing us organically, so that internal to our own team, we're constantly morphing and staying relevant, and that's just so exciting. So I want to applaud you for fulfilling those roles. And I was so impressed, I wrote down everybody's name: Travis, Becky, Linda and Rebecca, and the sponsoring teachers, who that's really courage. Brian, Corey, Paul, Todd, Kevin, Chris, Terry, Brooke, I saw you back there, Kelly, and other key leaders too. Some of them are here in the audience who are your fan club, making sure this all works. Just totally salute this incredible effort. I was on the CCAC 1,000 years ago. It wasn't quite this exciting. You guys are making things happen and on a really aggressive tempo. It's energizing, and the success builds on success. The other thing I wanted to comment on was to see the CCAC have a role, and that the district, my thank you, has built in this infrastructure to create an environment to receive these change, to vet them, organize them coherently, fully bake them, land them in a committee of citizens who can talk about accessibility and these peripheral issues, literacy, and make sure it's really going to work as we roll it out in our school and it's fully baked. And it's just awesome. I just really commend you and everybody that had a hand in this, and it's a lot of people, but especially the front row and the second row who have stepped up. Thank you very much.
Erica?
Yeah, so I'm super excited, the same. I was thinking, where were these when I was in high school? This is amazing. I did have a question on the construction one, because the vet one offered the dual credit as well with PCC, and I know PCC has a construction management kind of program, I think, right now. I'm wondering if that's something in the future, or why that one doesn't.
Yes, it will be offered eventually. I'm still in the process of becoming CTE endorsed right now. So to be honest, I don't know a whole lot about that process yet. I have not taught a dual credit course before. But there's through PCC, and then I also made a connection with NCCER, which is like a national construction curriculum that has a home base in Portland today. And they talked about that they're an accrediting agency, where if I went to a couple trainings through them, I could also offer college credit, but also like certificates of accomplishment for students. So that is something that is very much a part of it, and I just haven't really uncovered all of that yet.
It's pretty new, but it's really exciting. I think even just unions that offer apprenticeships and things like that would be such a great opportunity.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And there's community partners from like big companies like Knife River and Swinnerton, who's across the street right here, and also small framing companies and electrical companies that just want to come in and show kids how they do what they do. So thanks.
And I had one more comment or question, but something else is, when we talked about the computer science and how there's a summer camp for middle school students, is there anything else that we're doing to kind of promote this to that group of students as one, a way to all the other courses, but to get them excited about all the possibilities that are going to be available when they get to high school from the 7th grade. It would be amazing to have them, already have that passion for something that they want to study in.
Yeah, there's some great things that we've been doing through STEAM program and working with theater coaches, talking among the different coaches. We've done a lot of events where we've brought in students to showcase what we're doing. And then starting in February, we've got a wonderful program where we're going to be bringing in, like in the case of Century, we're going to bringing in students from Brown Middle School. And I've already got a senior that's going to coordinate this, but I'm trying to get freshman girls involved to actually run the show and actually have them come in, and we're going to do it through, I think, 3 programs. So through our computers, through the engineering design, and through health services. Yeah, and so we actually get to pay the students to do this too, so it's really exciting. And then they get to see their peers, like that's why I'm trying to address and trying to get freshmen to do this, so that they'll know some of the students and get the girls to really try to help. In my case, it's an underrepresented population, so I really excited about that.
And then just to speak of our new grant for summer camp, if you've heard about Brian's revitalization grant for his biotech program at Hill High, it's very, very cool, very lucrative for us. We have, as part of that, and it's slightly separate efforts, $100,000 coming in for 2 more years of our summer camp. So we're going to be doing a dual language summer camp this time that looks at all areas of our CTE programs. It's going to be an innovation camp, so they're going to be looking at all the different areas the first week, and then the second week they're going to be looking at identifying problems and innovative solutions that they can, do the marketing and do prototypes and do some teamwork. And so we'll be doing that for the next 2 years as well.
Wayne?
Yeah, not a specific question actually, but just a comment that I'm so pleased with the Hillsboro School District and how always approached the sort of coursework that draws students in. I've had a chance the past 6 months to mingle with people from all over the state who frequently comment as we've talked about the classes and coursework we have in the district that they were amazed at the various offerings we've had from engineering, computer science, and half a dozen other topics. So impressive, and that we're still inventing and creating new course pathways. It's a real testament to the district and to the teachers who put themselves out there, so thank you.
Mark, do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, much like everybody else, I just want to say thank you all for the presentations. So excited and so proud of the work you guys are doing. Coming out of the Career Pathway Summit that you guys conducted so successfully, one of the things that struck me was, our challenge to try to find a way to innovate, and this clearly indicates that that's something that we're doing. I think our challenge with that is, to continue to innovate and yet maintain the trust the community has placed in us with their students. My question is sort of with that context in mind, it has to do with sort of the safety and security of our kids. Farming accidents are a thing, and we're talking about agriculture, pets bite kids, pets bite people, and we're talking about veterinary. I doubt we have all the skills we need in-house to build an entire house, so we're talking about students interacting with external contractors that might need to be vetted and checked. So I just want to make sure that, those kinds of concerns are being addressed as we consider these things.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, mine. First of all, your biggest cheerleader is Representative Salman. She and I have the privilege of serving on the Pathways Steering Committee, and she literally has not been able to sit still for the last 20 minutes. And so just kudos to former board member and current Representative Salman, because it's fun for those of us who've been on the steering committee before this started to see these dreams that community members sat around a table, 3 years ago, thinking about what could the possibilities be, and then for you guys to just, it feels like it's exploding and we're hitting the tipping point, and that's very exciting. I very proudly will be representing all of you in our state in February in Washington, D.C., where we will be advocating for Perkins Dollars and the continuation of that program. So just know we keep to work on that. I love dual credit over other options because I just think it's so accessible and affordable for students and guaranteed credit. And it's not like other testing resources. And so kudos to the whole team for continuing to think about how to make these offerings dual credit. We talked a lot about travel at the last steering committee of career pathways, and I just think that part is so critical to the success of your programs and our students being able to move between schools to do their piece. I have a high school senior who's like, Mom, geez, like you couldn't do this 2 years ago? Thanks. Because he would have partaken in programs and would have been willing to transport to get to other programs that now he will pay PCC to do. And thank you for thinking about our workforce. Our community needs our students and they need these skills. And that's incredibly obvious every time those community leaders come together and they talk about all of the unfilled jobs. And so not only are you lighting fires in students, but you're really serving the community in a big way that will pay us for generations. And so just kudos for being risk takers and thinking about our kids. I'm so excited.
All right, I want to add my thanks as well. I'm so glad that the board got to meet you this evening, and you really are the all-stars of CTE and Career and College Pathways and dual credit. And because you don't hang out at board meetings every month, but you're welcome. You're welcome. They just haven't had the opportunity to hear all of the great things that are happening in your classes, and the fact that you go the extra mile and you're so creative about the opportunities that you're providing for our students, and you're looking out for the students' interests, and not just for the students' interests, but the interest of our business partners as well, who need an incredibly skilled workforce, and you're providing that as well. Love that you're wrapping all of this in the notion of high demand and high interest jobs. And the fact of the matter is you're just opening doors for students that wouldn't otherwise be open. And it's just such a privilege to sit here and to hear all that you're doing on our students' behalf, and we're just so appreciative. So thank you for everything that you've done on behalf of our students. Appreciate it.
As a reminder, these are all on 30-day review. If you have questions between now and when we vote on them, you can go through Travis and he'll get you pointed to the right places.
Thank you all for your support.
Thank you all for being here. Hopefully we got you out of here this time. I know you all have to be back early tomorrow morning. Don't feel like you have to stay and watch the whole meeting. Our feelings won't be hurt. They're like, yes, they want to go home and see my family. Travis, you're not off the hook though. Thank you. I know, right? Thank you. We lose half that. Super excited. Okay. And with that, we're going to come back to the part of Travis's job that's not as exciting as the course proposals. Division 22 assurances.
Division 22, Oregon Administrative Rules. I'm happy to notify the board and the community that we are in compliance with all requirements under Division 22 of Oregon Administrative Rules with one exception. As you know, the Oregon Department of Education facilitates a cycle of materials adoption for specific content areas like math and language arts and health on a rolling 7-year cycle. And since I have served in a curriculum role in this district, we've annually submitted notice that we are not on cycle in all areas, mostly due to lack of funding. We are caught up in several curriculum areas, most recently in science. Thank you, board, for helping us with the science adoption, which is making an impact in our schools this year. With some exceptions, world languages, social studies, language arts, art and music, and health and PE. For those subject areas, we are not on cycle with the state's 7-year rotation. We're not alone among Oregon schools in being out of sync with the state's adoption cycle as it exists in the OARs. And even where we are not on cycle with the state, I want to assure everyone that we do teach to academic standards that are state adopted. And we use a variety of resources to do that, sometimes old textbooks, sometimes open source resources, and teacher-created units of study that are relevant and up to date. I want to tell you too that in talking with our curriculum folks, that our teacher leaders have also been investing time and limited resources that they do have in updating supplemental resources for health, for example, to meet the needs of the changing standards, and getting class sets of culturally relevant novels for students to read in middle school and high school. So we consistently do improve our resources, despite the fact that we're off cycle with the state's adoption cycle. Just because I know it will be asked, it would take us several $1 million to get caught up in all those curriculum areas, and it would require us to put about $1.2 million annually to keep up with the cycle of adoption if we were to do a K-12 adoption per year in a given content area. So just to out of curiosity, you might want to know that. It's our intention to notify ODE that we continue to be off cycle, and we'll continue to move forward in partnership with ODE when we do engage in the adoption process. They've been really good partners to us. There's one other thing that I wanted to tell you tonight about Division 22 regarding an OAR that has caused us to need to increase instructional time over the course of several years, and next year is going to be the final year of that kind of ratchet up of instructional hours in the law, and I want to tell you about our plan to meet that new requirement. So this is complicated, but in short, there's a required number of instructional hours that students get K-8, 900, and we're way over that. Each year we use a calculator to decide how many hours of instruction our students get K-8. For grades 9 through 11, we need to provide 990 hours. We do that, and 966 hours in grade 12. Those are things we take into consideration when we develop our calendar, the number of days, the length of our school day. Next year, the requirement will be that 80% of students in any building access a full day of those instructional hours. So for freshmen and sophomores, we have a lot of students taking 8 of 8 periods, and they access that full day. Junior and senior year, because we offer 32 options for credit, and we only require 24 to graduate, we see things like early release and late start, and students not accessing a full day. Next year, to get to 80% in our high schools, we'll need about 6% or 8% of students to take a full schedule who don't right now. And through strategies like you heard tonight, like career pathways, through offering dual credit so that students can start their college career while they're still in school, through an increased number of online opportunities, through HOA and other resources, we hope more students will take 7 of 8 or 8 of 8 in our high schools, and we think we can offer that. We also hope that more students access our community service learning elective and our internship learning elective and get credit for the work that they're doing. We have students who are working in the community and leave school early to do so to support their families, and we want to continue to support them. We also want to find what kinds of work-related skills they can develop and get credit for doing those, whether it's a service project or work for a wage type of situation. So we'll keep you posted on those developments, and Dale and high school principals and I are working together to develop that plan to be in compliance with Division 22 next year. That requirement tops out at 80% next year, and then that's where it will ride for the foreseeable future. Happy to answer any questions about Division 22.
Martin?
Travis, would it be possible, just from the standpoint of a member of the board, we have a Citizens Advisory Committee, the CCAC, who really looks at curriculum, and I would like to hear their take on this, the deferring of the curriculum. It would be good, I think, for me to hear, because they spend a lot of time working with you on the issue of curriculum, just to hear that if we're going to sort of routinely not do something that the state might to be expecting us to do. It'd be nice if the CCAC looked at that and said, yeah, that makes sense, or, you know, in this menu of difficult decisions, we think, you know, instead of, you know, we're deferring all of them, but what's the one we're going to do next? Because it's the most important. Give us some perspective on that.
It's a good recommendation. So you're saying that if we make a decision to be out of compliance, get feedback on what the impact of that is on the community?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I think that's a good idea, to get that perspective. The irony of the state requiring a textbook adoption and not supplying the dollars to do it is where the rub is. And so I think we can provide definitely a perspective from the CCAC, but I just do know that it's a dollars and cents issue at some point.
It might also, I think we discussed in the work session the legislative agenda, and part of that stable and adequate funding, this might be an element to add to that conversation, which is we do a great job teaching the standards in our district, but we don't have sufficient resources to buy new materials and digital technology to support our curriculum. So sufficient to meet our expectations. Other thing I wanted to mention is that within the context of the instructional hours conversation, we do go periodically through a process of examining our high school course schedule. So we teach 4 periods each day, a total of 8, and there's conversations about, you know, that if that equals 32 opportunities and we need 24 to graduate, why do we do that? So we're constantly revising how we structure our high schools to meet the needs of students and how to deliver the curriculum in a guaranteed and viable way.
Martin, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I did. Relating back to the legislative priorities discussion, and we have our third priority is address cost drivers to the current education system. Would that be where it would fit in?
Yeah, and sometimes I think it's the 5th bullet. It's more about them asking us to do things and then not giving us the money to do it. So unfunded mandate.
Yeah.
So saying that you need to be on this cycle, but then not providing resources to be on that cycle.
So maybe if there was a way to have a working list of these examples that we could refer to, because we're cheerleaders for stable and adequate funding, but I mean, really know the specifics of where the state says do X and they're funding us at X minus a lot of money. And we could be specific then, maybe it would help me.
Be happy to. I think last year we did an analysis of exactly how much money we would need in order to invest in curriculum, K-12, in all content areas. So I'd be happy to provide that. It gave a number to that gap.
And this is just one area, I believe, like physical education is another area where there's a requirement, and there's we just got to figure out how to fund that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Charles, my comment is on the instructional time piece. I would challenge us to think about if 24 is the right number for graduation. If we're offering 32, perhaps we should be going up and not thinking about how to pare away from 32. But as we provide more and more learning opportunities and dual credit and hands-on real-life experiences, I would rather my high schooler be at school all day and taking 30 credits than him working at a entry-level job that's not related to a career path he's interested in. And so I would wonder if there's a way to actually help more students reach for that chancellor's diploma, or put a stake out there that's more than what the state requires to say, in Hillsboro we do better and we're growing great things.
Yeah, I would say that that's the goal as well, and I think in listening to some of these course proposals that we heard from our kids from the needs assessment a couple of years ago, like we want clear pathways, we want engaging content and curriculum, and I think the more we continue to invest in our college and career pathways, and who doesn't want to take those classes? We all do. So I think that's definitely a
And as
value.
we do more of those, they don't fit in a 45 or 55-minute thing. To get out the tools and to do the proper training and to do that, you need a 90-minute block or more. So I just think.
Yeah, some of the conversation that's already surfaced with high school teachers and administrators is that the right schedule? Because in some schedules, like if you went with a 7-period day, you might take like first and second period together, so you still get the same amount of time. But the conversation is percolated around like math every other day, the impact of that on students versus the everyday, like we're offering everyday algebra and we're seeing a lot of success with that. Or like when you take a second language, the difficulty in having like a large chunk of time every other day. And so the high school teachers are beginning to ask, can we start having that conversation about the impact of the schedule we've chosen and if it's working for our kids. So I'm learning with them, but I think that's kind of the conversation ahead of us.
Thank you. Mark, did you have any questions about this one?
No, thank you.
Okay. Thanks everybody for that. Thanks, Travis.
Yeah, thank you for the conversation.
Next, Adam, our annual risk management report.
Yeah, I'm first of all want to introduce Leah McCarthy. She is our risk manager. She's been with the district for several years now and has done a great job helping us manage our risk, both in terms of workers' compensation, liability, property, auto, all of our exposures. She does a great job meeting with staff and helping us to design programs to mitigate these risks. What you have in your packet are a whole lot of numbers about different types of insurance policies that we have. I did want to take a second to highlight a couple of them. One of the first ones that really jumps out, I think, is under the number of student incidents for 2016-17. And we've been talking about this throughout the course of the year as we present these monthly. That is a result of a new record-keeping electronic system that we've implemented and just the heightened awareness and the work we've been doing with our building level staff to make sure that basically any time a student requires any kind of first aid, they get reported. That hasn't always been the case. What you will be seeing in future iterations of this is a breakdown of the serious student injuries as opposed to the Band-Aid types of injuries. So wanted to point that one out. Also that the total number of claims is actually down this year. We're at 47. We were at 60 last year and 51 the year before that. So a good trend there. The total claims that were paid by our insurance company is down in the $90,000 level, which is pretty phenomenal for a district our size. Information there on the costs, premium costs. You'll recall that we're a part of an insurance pool, so this is not the insurance costs for the PACE premium is not necessarily related directly to our claims experience. It's the claims experience of the pool as a whole. Let's see, what other important things do we want to point out? Just on the second page, page 136 there, our workers' compensation premium actually went down this year from 800,000 to just over 700,000. That was a result of, and our experience rate went up. We switched carriers. We went from SDIS to SAFE. If we'd have stayed with SDIS, we were looking at a premium in excess of $1 million. So that was the reason for that change. And then just on the last page, some of the, just some information there about the Workplace Possibilities Program. These are accommodation expenses that we're able to take advantage of through our carrier to provide equipment for those employees. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Actually, I'm happy to hear them and refer them to Leah probably.
Any questions? Mark, do you have any questions?
Nope.
Okay. Great. All right.
All right.
Thank you. And you have the next report as well.
I do. Again, this is the result of work that Casey and his crew do. The first part of the report is the facilities and maintenance report. Some highlights there. We processed over 6,400 work orders during the 16-17 school year. During the summer shutdown and our energy conservation measures, we were able to save $165,000 over the previous year. And you'll recall that previous year was, I think, the second year of our energy conservation program, and we saw significant savings during the 2 previous years as well. So we're continuing to do the work there. Avoided savings of over 800,000 kilowatt hours in electricity and 21,000 therms of natural gas. We did energy conservation major projects in 8 different schools during the 16-17 school year. And we did summer projects, 819 different work orders processed for over $800,000 worth of projects. So, moving on to the nutrition services part of the plan, and that's Nate Rodell. Wave, Nate. We served over 2.5 million student meals last year, another 47,000 adult meals. You'll see that our revenues decreased slightly over the course of the year. Nate has talked to you about some concerns we have for our student charging for this next year that we're working with. But all in all, the program is very successful. It's one of the few that I'm aware of that's a break-even proposition for us. We do not contribute anything from the general fund to support our school nutrition program, which is not the norm for school districts. There was other information in there about our Head Start program serving 65,000 meals, 107 after-school snack programs that served 106,000 meals, and additional information. Finally, transportation services. Carol Hatfield, our transportation executive director, couldn't be here this evening. She's homesick. But she did include lots of information there about some new buses that we purchased and gross polluters. If you want to know about gross polluters, Carol can tell you all about that. We drove just under 2.5 million miles. We have 538 regular school routes and another 570 special ed school routes. I think when Carol talks about the number of miles, I think she talks about driving back and forth across the country twice every day. Is kind of the scale of the work that we do. And on the last page, you see the total transportation staff there. We have 178 drivers, which is great. We've made a big effort this year, along with our HR department, to make sure that we have enough drivers and sub-drivers to have drivers on the road at all times rather than mechanics and dispatchers. And so it's been a big effort to try to maintain this level of staffing. It's a very challenging market right now for bus drivers in particular, and we're doing everything we can to keep those folks in the buses. So again, I'm happy to answer questions about anything in the report. We have some really smart people here that can answer those questions.
Any questions? Mark, any questions?
Not a question so much as a comment. I don't know how cumbersome the energy conservation program is, but I appreciate that we're lowering our energy usage footprint and saving that money. Job well done.
Good. And that's something we'll be continuing through our bond work. There'll be lots of opportunities for putting high efficiency HVAC systems, a lot of the boiler work that we'll be doing over this bond program. So.
Great, thank you. Next report is the strategic plan goals. Hey.
I'll just kick it off and then we'll return it to Travis. So we're in the second year of our strategic plan, and at the board retreat late summer, we had the opportunity to talk about how we go about streamlining the report. In years past, what you've seen is each cabinet member, each of us taking a portion of the strategic plan and then hitting the highlights. And while you were doing that, we were noticing that your eyes were glazing over as we were doing that report. And so what our goal has been is to, this time around, is to make sure that we are more focused and we're not reporting on everything that's happening in the district, but just a few of our key indicators that we wanted to highlight. So my apologies, we didn't know this was going to be the Travis show this evening, but he is the person that is going to be presenting on behalf of the entire cabinet regarding our strategic.
Are you giving him 90 seconds?
Yeah.
I hope to move quickly. I think I'm not going to read each one of these slides, but I want to provide an overview of what we have here. So a strategic plan is a theory of action about how to provide a comprehensive system of support for all students. And what we've talked about doing is making sure that if we can prove that what we're doing is working on behalf of all students, we'll continue to do that and make tweaks. And if what we're doing isn't working, then we're going to change course. And I really appreciate Adam and Michelle's leadership on the conversation around AROI, academic return on investment. And we hope that our 6 strategic plan SMART goals will lead us to make better decisions on behalf of students. We think we're working in the right direction, but we're going to take steps to prove that to you and to our community and to ourselves. So what we've done is structured, as you know, into 3 categories. Students are connected to community, to culture, and career, each of our 6 goals. And the reason that we're doing this is to try to create communication talking points that resonate with our community members and our students, as well as create clarity about what our goals are. A challenge for an institution as large as ours is to make a strategic plan that's both comprehensive and useful. I'd like to someday be able to talk to a student or a teacher and say, are you familiar with the aspects of our strategic plan? And how does that impact your daily life? And I think that we're getting closer to that by narrowing our goals and talking more specifically about community, culture, and career in the way that we lead our strategic plan. Implementation scientists, people smarter than myself, have taught us that quality implementation has to do with these 3 components. What is your research foundation? What data are you looking at that predicts that your intervention or your treatment will be successful? And what input are you getting from stakeholders that allows them to inform your plan and carry it out? So each of these slides will represent this triple Venn diagram, the undergirding of each of our SMART goals, and then a recap of what that goal is and what our status is at this point. And we'd like to revisit this format and share with the board and the community what our status is regarding our strategic plan SMART goals during the time of our 5-year strategic plan. So faded into the background are those triple Venn circles so you can keep track of which ones they are. And these in italics are the questions we ask ourselves. What does the academic literature say about this goal? How do evidence-based practices support this goal? The data that we look at will be stacked on top our primary metric that you see in our strategic plan goal, like a bump in SBAC scores for certain groups of students. But then we'll also list what key indicators we monitor as educational leaders in the system to make sure that we are moving that goal forward. And then in the input bubble, you'll see how do our stakeholders support us in developing and achieving our goals. So an example of that would be our PAC, Parent Advisory Committee. How do we capitalize on their energy and their expertise about their students to enact these plans and achieve our goals? So this is the part I'm not going to read to you, but if you were so inclined, you could explore the hyperlinks here to get to resources that are our sources of best practice, as well as you could go on Amazon and buy any of the italicized titles and read them over the holiday break. You'll also be able to refresh yourselves on what our primary goals are in terms of, in our name, strength, and need goal this year, our goal is to create an information system where we can track specifically which freshmen are known by name, strength, and need, i.e. who's involved in a club, on a team, who has an adult advocate in the system. So along with that, we'll go different types of data digs that we do to make sure that being known by name, strength, and need actually equates to a higher GPA or higher attendance. And so we have some sub indicators that we look at under that SMART goal metric. Then we'd like to be very public about where we derive the need for knowing kids by name, strength, and need. One of the things that Dale and her team did was interview 1,000 high school kids about their experience. And out of that information came the need for us to establish adult advocacy relationships on behalf of many kids in our system. And then Advanced Ed, when they were here doing our systems accreditation, has a metric, can't remember which one it is, indicator 3.9 in their rubric for quality schools describes the research foundation for why they insist that every student have an adult advocate in your system. Why does that equate to higher achievement? So for SMART goal number 1, knowing every student by name, strength, and need, we are in progress with developing that data system by the end of this year. Next year, the goal will be to activate it and get X number of students an adult advocate via our data system. The next strategic plan goal is to increase by 10% the number of students participating in career-related internships. We're in progress and on track to meet that goal. Other goal is to offer wellness centers in 13 elementary schools and 1 middle school and 1 high school. We've already met that goal. That had to do with really facilities and staffing for those wellness centers, and they are operational. We will see a 5% increase in the number of English learners on track in 9th grade, i.e. achieving at least 6 credits in their 9th grade year, and we are in progress on that goal. We have teams visiting Chicago Public Schools and part of a consortium regionally to address 9th grade on track as a topic and share expertise. Smarter Balanced Assessment will show that 3% of students gained in math and 5% of students among underserved groups of students will gain in their math scores. So again, Smarter Balanced Assessment, but we have a whole bunch of things going on with our teacher leader teams showing us that better practices in math are yielding better results for kids. In progress. And then a 5% gain in the number of highly effective instructional strategies in the classroom. This is kind of the playbook for instructional leadership over the last 20 years with an emphasis on language and rigor this year across our schools. So we have a walkthrough tool that will show us from fall to spring that we increase the number of high leverage instructional strategies happening in our classrooms across the district. So that, in short, what I wanted to do tonight is just establish that foundation that you can expect from us, real transparency around what's the research foundation, what data are we examining, and what input are we getting from stakeholders in our strategic plan process. Next steps for us are to create some driver diagrams with Michelle's leadership to show that our dollars are following these goals and to show that these high leverage strategies will yield outcomes in each of these SMART goals. So this is how the academic side ties off to the business side in our district. And I think we're really on the forefront of how that leadership works. And I'm really proud of the partnerships that we have going on in our central office and in the conversations that are happening at schools about how to change the daily experience of kids. Just one last point is that Beth just shared with me that on the website and on your phone, you can surf all the information on this slide deck so you can find more documents to study and understand the why behind some of our focus areas in our strategic plan. If anybody else on our team would like to add any details to that, that would be great. This was a team effort. Happy to answer any questions about it.
Thanks, Travis.
Yep.
Questions or comments from board members? Mark, do you have any questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Travis. Good job representing the team.
Yeah, sure.
Adam, financial report.
Yes, I think Michelle was feeling left out when she put together this report. This mirrors a lot of the format of the annual support services report. So we have lots of numbers in there about the numbers of purchase orders we've processed over the last year, the amount of grant funds that we've generated, how many people payroll pays every month. So lots of good information in there, and I'm happy to answer any questions about that. But if you'll indulge me for just a minute, this is my last time before you in this seat, so I just wanted to thank you all for all these years and to tell you, you're in a great place. We have such a good team.
Don't panic. She's having a panic attack right now, it's okay.
Oh, I'm not leaving. I just won't be sitting here. So I'm moving over to the construction management side. I'm going to be managing the bond program, but I won't be in this role. So it's been a blast. And as I said, we are in such a good place with the business office, the team we have there, with our maintenance and facilities department and Casey's leadership. We're in a good spot. So
We're in a
thanks.
different spot because when Adam started, the budget started tanking for a long time.
I know.
Michelle started,
You sound
we
just like
sold
Mike.
millions of dollars of bonds.
I see a connection.
Sounds just like Mike.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to note as well, so Adam and I have participated in 216 board meetings together over the last several years. And they've all been awesome, every one of them. And as you know, that on January 1, Adam will be moving into the Capital Projects Officer position as a result of our successful bond passage. And although his role is changing, he will not be leaving us, thankfully. He'll be overseeing a $408 million little project that we'll have going for the next several years. And I just wanted to publicly thank him. He won't be at every board meeting. He will be at some of them to give reports, but he has just been such a steadying force for us. And he's one of those guys that he has the respect of everyone that he works with, and just his knowledge and his background has really served us incredibly well. So though it's his last meeting in this role, we are feeling like we're in good hands with Michelle. Michelle is one of those people that she wouldn't tell you, but I will, that she's received numerous offers over the last several years to be CFO in other districts. And she has, fortunately, her heart is in the Hillsboro School District, and we're very thankful for that. She's got an incredible skill set, and she's been leading the academic return on investment work, the Smarter School Spending project that we've been involved with. So she is well positioned to move into the role of CFO, and we're excited about her opportunity to do that. So congratulations to Michelle for the new position, and thank you, Adam, for all of your years in this position and moving into the new one.
Yep.
Looking forward to that.
Yep.
So congrats.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. With that, we'll move into first reading of policies. There's a small group of them this time around. Dale.
Awesome. All right, good evening, thank you. So I have two policies for you this evening. The first one is policy JEA, compulsory attendance. And again, the changes in these policies is really just to align with the OSBA language. So you'll see a few little wordsmithing adjustments in the policy, and then the addition of number 3 in the exemption for compulsory school attendance, which is if a student has already received a diploma or modified diploma, they're not required to continue to attend school. And then through new legislation, number 6, if a student basically turns 6 after the 1st of September, then they need to attend school, but prior to that, they don't have to. Or if a parent or guardian basically requests a delay of entry into school because they are working with their student for special needs, it's usually around social or physical development. And then the last one, number 7, these are students who are coming to the United States and perhaps are accessing a special program for being an emerging bilingual here. So those are the 3 adjustments to that policy. Questions on that one?
Any questions? Jackie?
I just have one question, just clarification. Has it always been September 1st?
To my knowledge, yes, it's
Okay.
always been September 1st.
For some reason, I thought it was
It
later.
used to be 7
Okay.
September 1st, and then
Yeah.
it
Okay.
moved to 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that policy? Okay, and next up?
Okay. The second one is policy IKF with graduation requirements. And on the first page, you'll see a large section that we just didn't have in our policy prior. But basically, it says that we can grant a waiver for students if our diploma requirements are beyond the state requirements, which they aren't. So that's why that portion was not included, but we added it just to be in alignment with the state. On page 2, you'll see the addition of the item in parentheses allowing personal finance to be included as one of the social studies requirements. And then near the bottom, just an addition due to the OER adjustment there. No change really. And then on the back side, standard diploma you will see there's just two little adjustments there. The social science, again, adding personal finance. The CTE, it allows for any combination. We still work with our students to make sure that they understand that if they're interested in a four-year college, they want at least 2 years of a world language, if not 3. So we have that conversation with students who have that as their goal. And then on the 4th page here, you'll see a portion about essential skills for students whose language proficiency is not English. And we already have that in practice in terms of supporting our students to make sure that they can show their proficiency in whatever language that they are strong in. And then addition with the modified diploma. So previously, we had 4 years of English in our modified diploma requirements as a district, and the state recommends 3. In conversation with our student services department, of course, as a value, we want our students who are modified diploma to be as close as possible to our standard diploma, but that's often decided in the IEP meeting, the individual education plan meeting. And so we felt lining up with the state with English being 3 credits, but allowing for the IEP team to decide whether or not it was appropriate for the student to take 4 credits would be appropriate. And then the removal of the participation in career-related learning experiences, although we know that a lot of our students do that through their focus program, or if they participate in transition services, those pieces are also offered there. And then, let me see, you'll see a few little strikeouts. And then on page 7, sort of referring back to Senate Bill 20 that Beth was speaking about earlier in terms of students who qualify for a modified diploma. Currently, that's still on the books. It's been postponed until July 18th, and there's hope that in the February conversation, there'll be an adjustment. But that new addition that you'll see on page 8, where it says a student who qualifies for a modified diploma but has not yet been awarded that diploma shall continue to have access to the individual instruction hours or transition services. So if Senate Bill 20 stays, we are in alignment with it, and if it gets modified, that still allows us the opportunity to serve our students. And when a student who has an IEP completes high school, the district will give them an individual summary of the performance. That is already something that's in our practices. And then the addition of the statement, students and parents will be notified by grade 5 of graduation and diploma requirements. We have this in our handbook, course catalog for middle school and high school, but it isn't in our student handbook for 5th and 6th grade. So that's an addition that we will be adding. And then the last adjustment there is in conjunction with the Oregon law, if the district can issue a high school diploma for a person or a representative of a deceased person who has served in the U.S. and was discharged or released with honorable conditions. So again, that's just updating the language in line with that law. So a few little things there. Questions on that one?
Okay.
Okay, if you have questions, let me know. Thank you.
And the 3rd policy is CBA, qualifications and duties of superintendent. No, a bunch
All right, so the changes that are represented here are essentially changes that are recommended by OSBA. You'll see that, you'll remember that one of our goals is to match as closely as possible with OSBA policy, so that when revisions become available, it is much closer to what we currently have on the books. They're really, in terms of content, there's not that many substantial changes. There really is a lot of format changes in the way things are packaged. So I will entertain any questions that you have. I don't feel like I don't need to really read through this, but any questions that you have, I'll be happy to answer for you.
Okay, I don't see any questions. Mark, any questions or comments?
I'm good.
Okay, so as a reminder, these are all policies on first reading. So if you have questions or as you're thinking about this when you're driving home tonight, that's usually when I have my aha moment, reach back to whoever presented. They can answer any questions you have before it comes back to us next month. With that, we've made it through reports. Good job, everybody, hanging tight with us. It's a long one. I'd like to move into consent agenda and a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move we approve the consent agenda. That's right.
Second?
Any questions or comments on that? So it's been moved by Jackie and seconded by Martin to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. And we'll move into our action items. The first action item is tied back to the very first thing we started with this evening, with the resignation of Director Cliff. And so for this, board members, we'd be looking for a motion that not only accepts Wayne's resignation, but also announces the vacancy and the timeline that we discussed upstairs.
It's separate in the Google Docs. Okay, we're getting there. And this is the OSBA, right?
No, this is on page 210 of your board packet.
Oh.
I move that we accept Director Cliff's resignation from position 7 on the Board of Directors effective December 12th, 2017. Announce the vacancy of board position 7 and approve the appointment process and timeline.
Second. Thank you.
Sorry, that.
No, that's all right. And as a reminder, for any audience members who weren't with us in the work session, we are announcing that application tonight. I'm starting looking for a piece of paper. Applications will be posted this week. They would be due back by January the 15th, so it's a 1-month window for that application to be open. The board would review those applications on January 23rd and then interview candidates on February 13th in appointing a new member to fulfill the duration of the term of position 7 on February 13th. Those will all go live in the next, I would assume, 24 to 48 hours on our website. Is that perfect? All right. So it's been moved by Jackie and seconded by Erica. Are there any other questions or comments about the process? Okay, so with that, then, I would ask for your vote. If you agree with Jackie and Erica to accept the resignation and approve the timeline, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Wayne, you're lucky. We could have voted that you couldn't resign. I'm going to try that with my senior when I get home tonight. No, you can't go. Next would be a motion to approve the annual report.
I move that we approve the annual report. Second.
All right. Beth, you want to walk us through this one?
Sure. So in your packet on the website, we have the annual data compilation from our 2016-17 school and district report cards. And this was something that I started doing a handful of years ago, just kind of acknowledging that it can be a little bit unwieldy to have to go into every single school's report card and try to get a sense of how we're doing as a system. And so I created this spreadsheet that can capture some of those key data points that are reported on each of those reports. So it's just a way, it looks a little bit overwhelming and very small, but you can expand it on your screen and kind of just after spending a couple minutes kind of figuring out the color key and all that kind of stuff, it becomes clear pretty quickly kind of how to glance it over and see how a school is doing. One of the nice things about it, I think, is it allows at a glance that sense of, compared to other schools that are demographically similar to one of our schools, how are they performing? Are they doing better than their peers, the same, worse? And what about when you take into account growth variables and different things like that? So it's just a way to, again, compile all that data into one document so that people can get an at a glance look at how we're doing.
Any questions or comments for the motion? Okay, so the motion on the table is to approve the annual report. Was motion made by Erica, seconded by Jackie. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Beth. And next, thank you for our visitors who've been patient waiting for us to get to this part, accepting the 2016-17 audit report. And who's going to walk us through this one? Adam or Michelle?
Well, I can introduce, or Michelle can. Okay. Larry Grant with our audit firm, Grove Mueller Swank, is here this evening, along with Jeff Jones, who is our staff CPA accountant person who is responsible for putting this whole thing together. And I think the whole packet is in your board packet. Larry had a chance to meet with 3 of our 4 audit committee members today and present, and they actually spent a lot of time with them. Just snuck into the board meeting at the last minute. But so Larry, I will let you say what you need to say, and then maybe members of the audit committee can weigh in on what they learned.
Okay. I would encourage everybody to stand up because I've been sitting for 2 hours. And this is kind of the most exciting part of the meeting. Move around.
I like this one.
Stretch break.
Yeah, this is exciting stuff.
Stand up, Mark.
It's midnight where Mark is.
Yes.
Good call, Larry, good call.
Jeez, Grant
We
stood
stood up
up.
with the audit report. Here we are.
All right, well, we did have a chance to have a small water fight during our audit committee meeting today. I argued with the water and lost, so, but it was entertaining. I am with Grove Mueller Swank, and we are a CPA firm that is privileged to work for the board of directors. And with your staff, very competent staff of Adam, Michelle, Jeff, Coral, and a lot of others that helped put together this document. This document is about 160 pages, 134, and it takes a lot of work to put it together. It took me about a year to make all this activity, and it took them about 5 months to boil it down. So a lot of work went into this, and it's very much appreciated. It shows in the effort and the competency and the care that you put into it. So I would encourage, if you haven't already, I'm assuming the board has had a chance to look at the financials, you'll want to definitely read the management's discussion and analysis. It's really a message, financial summary that's written by the management of the district. So it has the voice of Adam and Mike and Michelle speaking to you about what is happening, what the future holds for the district financially. So that's a good summary. And then just inside the financial section is the independent auditor's report. And this is our statement that is an unmodified opinion. So this is good news. So our goal, the report really does lay out fairly well who is responsible for what. And there's headings there that describe who is responsible. And then our opinion states that the financial statements that are referred to above present fairly, in all material respects, the financial position of the district. So then back in the single audit section, there are 2 more audit opinions that relate to federal dollars and government auditing standards. And suffice it to say that there are no findings there. The district spent $16 million of federal dollars, and during the 12-month period. And the federal government is really interested to see that the compliance requirements are being followed for those. So on page 130, there's a summary there of the auditor's results, which basically talks about the financial statement audit, the federal awards compliance audit, and there's no bad news in this at all. It's a very very good news, there's no findings. Okay, no audit findings. The very last 2 pages of the report are the independent auditor's report required by Oregon state regulations. So ORS's and OAR's asked the auditor to look at various compliance areas required by Oregon minimum standards and report on those. There is a one comment there that which is very common, where it's against the ORS, it's against the Oregon law to expend dollars in excess of appropriations. An appropriation is merely a legal authority to spend. And to spend in excess of appropriations is against Oregon law, but it does happen just because, when you have a $200 million budget and you have to spend in various functional categories, there's not a lot of difference between the budgeted number and the actual expenditures. You're not always going to have the spending authority in the right buckets. So those are monitored throughout the year, and I think we had a good discussion with the audit committee. I think they're on board with what's going on there, and they can answer your questions, or if they can't, Michelle can, or Jeff. So, are there any questions for me at this time?
I don't see. Okay, questions for anybody else on the team? Anybody on the audit committee team who'd like to add anything before we approve? Martin?
Thank you, Kim. And thank you, Larry, and Michelle, and Jeff, and Coral, who's on maternity leave. You guys are doing a great job. And I just want to underscore what Larry has said. I'm reading page 121. Given these limitations during our audit, we did not identify any deficiencies in internal control that we consider to be material weaknesses. So that's really a good news story. The audit committee spent some time and we sort of noodled out really the core gems in this very comprehensive document. And this is all financial speak and audit speak, and it's kind of hard for lay people to dive in and really see what it's saying. But the audit committee dove in and we were guided to where to look, and it's a good news story for the district. It speaks to really good stewardship of taxpayer dollars, competency in critical positions. And that said, as Larry mentioned, there's a few things we could do better next year, and some of those things that he referred to that would fall into that category really revolve around board actions late in the fiscal year to put money in the right buckets so that there's the authority to spend where we know we're going to be spending. And so those are really sort of dotting the I's and crossing the T's in terms of budget execution. And so, that's the level of excellence we're pursuing with your tax dollars as a district, and that's a good news story, and I'm really pleased to share that. Thank you, Larry.
Great. So I'll be looking for a motion to approve it.
I move that we approve the financial report as we've been briefed.
Second.
Then moved by Martin, seconded by Wayne to accept the 2016-17 audit report. Any parting comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much, and thank you for staying so late and
Thanks,
working
Larry.
with us this evening. Adam, approve the bond oversight committee plan.
Yeah, earlier this evening in work session, I presented a draft plan for the Citizen Bond Oversight Committee. I have not had a chance yet to revise this. During the work session, we talked about needing to adjust some dates so that this application process didn't overlap with the bond or the board application process. So I will adjust those dates, but the purpose and the scope and the job of this group is laid out there, and I'm happy to answer any questions about that.
Any questions before we move to a motion? Okay, then I'll be looking for a motion.
So I move that pending the state adjustments, we approve the plan for the Citizens Bonds Oversight Committee. Second.
It's been moved by Erica and seconded by Jackie to approve the bond oversight plan, committee plan, with the date revisions to reflect pushing back the dates to accommodate the board appointment. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is approve revisions to policy BDDH and BDDH-AR around public comment at board meetings. Mike?
So this has been on 30-day review, and we actually have made some adjustments, I think, midstream on this one. This is the policy that Joe commented on this evening during audience comment time. So I'm just looking for if there are any questions, or are we ready to take action on this? If we were to take into account Joe's recommendation, that would occur on page 217. And I would see that happening in the second to last paragraph on that page in the last sentence, if that's something you're interested in amending.
During a regular session.
Yeah. So it'd say during a regular session of the board meeting that is open to the public, a portion of the meeting shall be designated for public comment. That's the adjustment that would be made.
So if someone would like to make a motion, in your motion, you can opt to keep the language or to amend the language in your motion. Martin?
I move that we adopt this policy as amended by Superintendent Scott to reflect during a regular session of a board meeting, and that is the last sentence in that paragraph on page 217, procedures for public comment at meetings, so that the intent is to ensure public participation in regular meetings, recognizing that in special meetings we typically don't have it.
Would anyone like to second that motion?
I would second that.
Questions or comments about, yes? Val?
Don't forget to include policy BDDC as well.
Thank you.
Shall I amend my motion to include BDDC?
Could you take your motion back?
Okay, I rescind
Take
it.
it off the table and you can make a new motion.
You could withdraw your previous motion and make a new one.
I recommend that the board approve the revisions to policy BDDH and BDDHAR and policy BDDC with the amendment that we change it to reflect regular board meetings on page 217.
Are you including and shall? Just make sure we got it all. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and shall.
So just
Okay. Okay. So it's been moved by Martin and seconded by Jackie to approve the two policies, including amending the language of policy BDDH to indicate in that last sentence that it is speaking during a regular session. Any questions or comments?
I do have one.
Yes.
I'd just like to say it's been a great process. I think we've really thoroughly vetted this, and it's obvious to those paying attention, this matters to the community a great deal. So I think we've respected that interest and comment, so I feel really good about where we are at this moment.
Any other comments? So with that, the motion was made by Martin, seconded by Jackie. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving into OSBA elections now, and I believe you will have language that you need. The first, so there's a couple here. We'll start with electing a member to the board of directors, then we'll do the LPC, and then we'll do the OSBA resolution. So I'll be looking for recommendation for the OSBA Board of Directors first.
I move that the board cast its vote for Maureen Wolf for the OSBA Board of Directors, position 16. Second.
Any questions or comments? Maureen is delightful. I think most of you have had an opportunity to meet her through either state convention or regional convention, and she's just amazingly strong advocate for students and for our region. So I'm pleased that she threw her hat back in the ring. Seeing no other comments, it's been moved by Erica, seconded by Jackie, to elect Maureen Wolf to the OSBA Board of Directors. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect, motion carries for Maureen. The second one is, there are 2 seats open on the Legislative Policy Committee.
I move that the board cast its vote for Kim Strelchin for the OSBA Legislative Policy Committee position 15 and Becky Timchuk for the OSBA Legislative Policy Committee position 16.
Second?
Questions or comments? Same thing, I think several of you got to meet Becky at our regional meeting. Becky has been serving North Coast region for us, and she's very excited at the opportunity to actually serve the community in which she resides. And I'm honored to serve in this capacity again. This committee actually starts meeting in the middle of January and to develop policy recommendations for the long session that comes in 2019. So we waste no time getting to work. Any other questions or comments?
I would like to comment, Kim, say thank you. I'd like to say thank you. I've watched this board for a long time, and I've always appreciated your hard work behind the scenes as a board member. And this is very consistent with who you are in terms of digging in and really getting to the ground truth and stuff. So thank you, Kim. And I'd also say I feel really good about Becky as well.
Great, thank you so much. So it's been moved by Jackie, seconded by Martin to move forward the nominees in position 15 and 16. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are you there, Mark?
Oh, sorry, I forgot to unmute myself.
Are you an aye?
Aye, yes.
Thank you. Any opposed? Perfect, motion carries. Thank you again. And the last one is to vote on the OSBA resolution, which includes the proposal on bylaws.
And the last one.
Yeah, we're getting close. Here we go.
I move that the board vote to support Resolution 1 to organize the OSBA as a nonprofit corporation and adopt the proposed 2017 bylaws.
Second. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, it's been moved by Martin, seconded by Erica to approve the OSBA resolution. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, team. We're almost there. The last one is to approve the appointment of the Metro Policy Advisory Committee alternate.
I move that we vote to appoint Karen Emerson to the Metro Policy Advisory Committee alternate position.
Second.
Perfect. Any questions or comments on this one? Seeing none, the motion's been made by Mark and seconded by Jackie to appoint Karen Emerson as the alternate to the Metro Policy Advisory Committee. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, team, for getting through those quickly. I think we stuck to the 90-second rule. Next, I'd like to invite up our friends from HCU and HEA. Do you draw straws to see who's going first?
Let's
tell him.
Yeah. Somebody makes the decision and the other person just goes, yeah, okay, sure. All right, so I just wanted to start off by thanking Adam for all the hard work. I think every time we came back from bargaining last year, our field rep, Deb Kelly, was like, I love Adam, he's so great. And like, it was constant. So I'm hopeful that in the next bargaining, they'll come back and say, Michelle was wonderful, we love her, she's so great. So we're hoping to keep the trend. Having the support of a
business office that really wants to be transparent about how the district spends their money is incredibly important to the bargaining process, and I think it really helps build trust between the labor and management to make sure that we are able to come to a deal that everyone can live with. Talking about bargaining, and it's great that we had that presentation about PERS. The one worry I have about PERS is that every year it seems that PERS becomes less and less of a reason to work for the Hillsboro School District. A lot of people come here because of the kids. The PERS, I get complaints from younger employees who say, oh man, those tier 1 people got such a great deal and now I'm getting quote unquote nothing, which I know is incorrect, but that's the thought out there. And I know that there's not something that we can control here in the district, but it is yet another factor that people have to take in mind when they decide, am I going to work for the Hillsboro School District or not? One of the hardships that our staff is having, especially with recruitment, is for subs. This has been hitting, I think we talked about it, custodial, bus drivers, those folks not being able to get subs. And part of it is that there's not a lot of training that we don't really front load our subs with the necessary training they may need to show up in a workplace and fulfill all the duties of all the jobs. There's a lot of positions that they just don't get a sub because it's impossible to train a sub and have someone available to help. And it really makes it difficult, especially when we're short on custodial subs, that they're not able to take vacation time during the school year and they have to wait for break periods. And that's a shame because a lot of the work that we 12-monthers do is over those break periods, during winter break, spring break, summer break. Those are the busiest times for custodial staff and for any admin center staff because you're catching up on all these things that you can actually work on when there's no students around and there's not people constantly coming to you to talk about it. So I just want to think about that as we think about what is the reason that people come to Hillsboro School District and why they work for us. From a regular employee to a temporary employee to a sub-employee, which they are, I understand they're employees of EMS, but making sure that it is something that people will get excited to come here and that they know that investing in this school district with their time and effort will pay dividends for the students that they produce, and that when they go to retire, that they will not have to work until the day they die, which a lot of our younger generation now feel that's what they have been given by the current economic environment. So I hope we can find a way to solve that, and I look forward to working together to find a solution. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Jill Golay, Hillsboro Education Association President. I too want to say thank you. I'm not a numbers person, but you've always been very gracious and patient when I've asked any questions around numbers, and I appreciate that. And though I do know we're in great hands with Michelle, and we've had the opportunity to work with Michelle a lot with benefits, so thank you. And also, thank you, Wayne. I think I was the greeter when you came to HEA office when you were running for the position back in 2 years ago. And you are a standout to me in regards to that entire process. And the reason is that you were one of the few, if only, maybe the only person that day who, did the process. But then when it was all finished and we said, do you have any questions for us? You were like, yeah, I do. And so I was like, oh wow, he's got a couple questions. And so I remember you saying, which really impacted me. You said, yeah, I know what HEA is and Hillsboro Education Association, and I know what you guys stand for and how you support the teachers and salary and benefits and stuff, but what else do you do? And I was like, what else do we do? And I really thought a lot about that, and that was the year I started the Book Swap and Adopt down in the market on Saturdays, which I know a lot of you have seen. And I thought, we need to do more. We need to do more for the community and more for the kids, and I think we continue to do that. And I'm certainly not here to say that I'm the only one doing any of that, but I think it was great, and I appreciate the question. And I'm going to put you to work maybe on that with those books. Beth kind of took my thunder a little bit today when she talked about Measure 101, but the three-letter word is yes. Vote yes for Measure 101. Folks can still register until January 2nd. Ballots will come out, they'll be dropped the first week of January. It's really important that we share that folks need to vote yes, and I know that Martin loves a challenge, and so I'm figuring at least 100 contacts,
Easy.
shaking people's hands, saying vote yes, Facebook, Twitter, all of that. But it is going to significantly impact what we do if we don't get a yes vote. So everybody please remember to vote yes, and thank you, Mike, for the listening session, and I appreciate you being there and listening. And it was a very active listening session, but we're working together as a team, and I appreciate everything that you do. And happy holidays, and I'll see you guys next year.
Thank you. All right, with that, superintendent time.
All right, I will be brief. Have had the opportunity to visit a number of schools over the last couple of weeks, and I wish you could see everything that I see when we go out into the schools, the instruction that's taking place, the tone that is being set by teachers and by all of our staff members to make it a welcoming environment for our students. The care that our staff members provide for our students, and really just the culture of care and the wrapping around of the students to provide whatever they need in order to be successful. I was out in a school as a result of a flight team response because we had a tragedy at one in the community, and it of course spills over into the school when that happens, and just the incredible expertise of that flight team and the highly trained and highly skilled individuals that go in and help the healing process, absolutely amazing. And couldn't be more proud of the work that they do, and the work that our counselors do is absolutely amazing to see. I would say one last time, I'm sure I'll be thanking Adam a lot, but in this meeting, one last time to thank Adam for his years in the role as CFO. We are really excited that he's going to be moving over into this new role, and just the passion that he has for that bond work and the skill and the management that he'll bring to that is going to be excellent for us. And congratulations to Michelle, who will be moving into the CFO position. I know that she'll do excellent things as well, and looking forward to working with you. And then finally, one last time to Wayne. I did my little song and dance at the beginning of the meeting, but really appreciate all that you brought to the board, and just your personal integrity that you brought to the board, and it plays out in everything that you do. So thanks for all that you've done for the district and for the community. Appreciate it.
All right, and I'm just going to start at one end and we'll work the whole way down. Sorry, Mark, we're towards the end. Becky.
Me, okay. Yes, thank you, Adam, very much. We'll miss you. I met with Michelle when I was campaigning, and she was amazing, so I have no doubt that we are in good hands. You've both done very well. In the annual support services report, there was the new replacement buses. And I noticed that there are 2 that are hopefully going to help transport our students for the new CTE courses. So I'm just very thrilled with that, because I think the CCAC co-chair, Rebecca, said it well. We need to make sure, I love the new courses, but I'm very concerned about making sure that all students have access to that. I know it's difficult with schedules and transportation there and back and timing, but I think it's something that we really need to be on top of. We won't meet again until after the holidays. I just realized that. So I hope everybody has wonderful time with their family and their friends, and a happy new year. And we will miss you. I hope you keep coming and asking us the questions.
Thank you.
I just wish everybody happy holidays, be safe, and be thankful. We live in a great community. And thank you, Wayne. Godspeed, sir.
Thank you. Well, it's been a wild ride. I appreciate the nostalgia. We're holding an extra long meeting just for memories.
I already thanked Lisa for you.
I just appreciate so much the opportunity to serve with you. I've picked up so many friends, and along the way, it's been a pleasure serving alongside you and working with you, and I look forward to many future connections. Thank you very much.
Just a really good informational long meeting. But I'm wishing just everybody that they enjoy their holidays, and I'll see you in the new year.
Great, thank you. Mark?
Just I regret not being able to shake the hands of the folks who have given the district so much time. Appreciate it. Thank you, Wayne, so much for your service. And, I know you're getting your teacher certification soon, so if you're looking for a great district in which to work, I think that's one.
Thank you.
And Adam, thank you so much for making some very complex concepts clear, in a way that non-financial people can understand them. I appreciate that. I look forward to listening to the show. And happy holidays. Thanks.
Thanks, Mark. Mine are also brief. Echoing what we've heard earlier this evening about Measure 101 and how important it is and its potential impact to put a hole in our budget, and how important it is for people who don't normally vote in January. So remind your friends and neighbors. We're voting at a time where we don't normally vote, and it's, well, it's yes for healthcare, it's also really yes for kids and education because they're so intertwined. I will be out on the January 9th meeting, so just a heads up to you for that. I'll share my questions with Val in advance of that, but I'm helping Allie move from Orlando to St. Louis. So I'll be, I don't know, in some state between those two places. Thank you again to Adam, and I'm so glad that you're not leaving like Miss Janine thought you were. Because like she went from jumping up and down in excitement about career pathways to jumping up and down and like panic that you were leaving. So we're glad that you're not going very far and that we'll still see you frequently. Happy holidays to everybody. Thank you for enduring till 9:30. Just make note, this is Lisa did the agenda. I just managed it for her so that she's not always off at 8:30. Thanks, everybody.